Okay. So hi, everyone. My name is Nathaniel. I'm a high school senior at Homestead, and I got into the University of Pennsylvania for computer science. So before I start my presentation, I just want to ask, how many of you are aspiring engineering students, like want to major in engineering in college or have parents that are engineers? Just raise your hand for me real quick. Okay, so a good number of people. And before I start, there might be some ambiguity around the word engineering. So the way I define it, I include computer science in it as well. So there's a list of a bunch of engineering majors. So like, I'm going to go into a little bit of depth about each of these later on. But but these are just some for now. So let's start. Because I'm a computer science major, I'm going to focus a little more on how to prepare your resume for a computer science major, but keep in mind all of these tips are relevant for actually all college applicants as well. So aerospace engineering, this is for someone whose main interest is in things that fly. So airplanes, drones, helicopters, things that are in the air. And civil engineering or environmental engineering is about urban infrastructure and environmental infrastructure. So like dams, managing water, and also like roads and traffic. Then you have mechanical engineering, which is machines, so like robotics, and things that are complex that are in factories. Electrical engineering, which is electronics, not just computers, but also like printers, the things that you use every day. And there's biomedical engineering, which is self-explanatory in the name, and chemical engineering, which is also self-explanatory. But the thing I want to focus on right now is computer science and computer engineering. So you may be wondering, what's the difference? There's a lot of phrases that are thrown around, like computer engineer, software engineer, computer scientist, right? And what do all these things mean? Well, in college, a computer science major focuses mostly on programming. So that's like coding in Java and Python and some other languages. And at certain universities, the computer science major is under the art and sciences department. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with colleges, but each college has a department, or like has separate departments for different majors. And the Arts and Sciences department is usually the largest one in each school. And so because of this, a computer science major is going to have a lot more liberal arts elements of education sometimes, unless you're in the engineering school. And at most public colleges, computer science is one of the most, if not the most competitive major there is. So it's really hard to get in. And my goal in this presentation is to help you a little bit. And then computer engineering. So instead of computer science, which is mostly like 90% programming, computer engineering is half hardware, which is the things that are inside the computer and how it works, and then half software, which is like programs. And CE is always in the engineering department because of its name. But this major usually has a lot of computer science courses, so the overlap between these two is like extremely large. And it's not as competitive as computer science, so an excellent alternative at public colleges for people who want to study computers is computer engineering. As an example, at UCLA, there's a major called computer science and engineering. And the acceptance rate of that one is a lot higher than the one for just computer science. And the people who get in, their stats are usually not as high. So, how many of you guys are, well, most of the students here are high school students, right? And if you want to start building your resume, the earlier you start, the better it is. So there's a couple sections, and the fine print before I actually say this. Everything I say should be taken with a grain of salt. These are just general guidelines meant to help you, but if you do every single one of these, there's no guarantee that you're going to get into a good college. So, some sections. There's stats, work experience, extracurricular activities, volunteer and community service, and awards and honors. So stats. These are just raw numbers. The two main ones, GPA and standardized testing scores, which may be SAT, ACT, SAT2. And what's in GPA? Well, most of you should already know this, but it's called the grade point average because it's an average of all of your high school grades. So if you have straight A's and you go to a school that does not have weighted GPA, then your GPA is going to be 4.0. And there's something called weight, which is if you take an AP or honors class, at certain schools, they'll give you a little boost. So instead of a 4 for an A, it's going to be a 5. But don't take this as an excuse. So like, I've heard people say, oh, it's okay, I'm in an AP class or an honors class and I got a B, so that's still a 4. But don't think that way, because you should still be striving to get A's, and the point of a weighted GPA is to boost you even more. And colleges usually look at both. And for standardized testing scores, there's SAT1, ACT, almost everyone knows about this, and then SAT2 subject tests. For computer science majors and other engineering majors, I recommend math and one sort of science. So math level 2, and then either chemistry or physics are the two most common ones. And then, of course, you can take other ones if you are interested in those topics as well. How do you prepare for all of these? Well, you can take classes here. Also, to get the GPA up, make sure that you're maintaining a good relationship with your teachers and not just doing the minimum work, but actually making sure that your teacher remembers your name and making sure that you're maintaining like good test scores, and make sure you understand the material. So work experience. There's such thing called connections, right? And most people can have a connection or two that will get them into some sort of internship. And that's probably the best way to do it, because it's not as hard as having to sign up for them yourself. Because most companies don't like high school students. Not because high school students are dumb, but because high school students just won't be able to stay for as long as they need to make a significant impact on the company. So I have a list of ways you can find internships here, which is parents, companies, family, friends, and other connections. And these are the 3 best ways. But the other option is a job you find yourself. So you apply for a job, you got the job. If you're interested in robotics and helping out kids, an excellent choice that I have here is called WizBots, which is a program that it's during the summer, and you work for anywhere between 2 and like 6 weeks, I think. And the main focus is on teaching kids how to code, how to use robots. And then, of course, there's the option of going to a coffee shop and working, or going to a cafe and working. But in my opinion, do those if you have no other option, and all of the other ones are better because they relate to the field that you're trying to study. So, there are 2 kinds of extracurricular activities. There's academic ones and non-academic ones. I recommend having an equal amount in both because they're both important. Colleges want to see that you're passionate about the things that you're studying, but also that you're taking care of yourself and doing things that are not related to school. For academic extracurriculars, school clubs are the main source. So you have FBLA, DECA, Math Club, Speech and Debate, and Quiz Bowl. And there are, of course, a lot of other ones that you can join. A big part about those school clubs is try to get an officer position. Because getting an officer position shows that you're committed, and it shows that you have the ability to lead other people in the club. And colleges want to see that you're passionate about something, not just that you're going through the motions and just joining all these clubs, but not actually making a difference in them. Of course, there are other things you can do, like outside research programs, summer programs, etc. In terms of non-academic ones, the biggest one is probably sports. You can do high school sports or club sports, and while there isn't like really officer positions, there's always the position of coach or like team captain, and those 2 are also leadership positions in a non-academic context. And then lastly, there are other non-academic activities, such as political groups or interest groups. Say you're really interested in politics and you want to go out and talk to people, then that's a good idea. Or a lot of people do this one, which is they'll join a band, they'll join an orchestra, they'll join drama if they're interested. This one really is just, most people have been in it since childhood and they'll continue to do it throughout high school. Community service. Not every school requires this, but some schools require you to have a certain amount of community service hours to graduate from high school. But if your school doesn't require it, I would still recommend aiming for 100 to 200 hours of community service. And if you can get a presidential service award, that is the best. So I'm just going to explain briefly what a presidential service award is. If you join an organization that is a nonprofit and they have a program for a presidential service award, and if you do 100 hours of community service, you can get an award. And so that constitutes for both your community service aspect and your awards and honors, which I'll talk about later. You can also do international trips. So some people, they'll volunteer for like 4 weeks or 6 weeks during the summer and go to a different country and help the people there. You can also join local organizations that will provide you with volunteering opportunities to help around the area. So generally, these are for the elderly or for the disabled or for some other groups of people. At school, one option is National Honor Society or California Scholarship Federation. So NHS and CSF. These two, they are clubs at school that give you opportunities to volunteer. And then the last one is, if you're a member of a church, some churches have volunteering opportunities as well. So awards and honors. One that most people can have an opportunity of getting is the PSAT, which is the National Merit Scholarship. So when you're a junior, you take the PSAT, and if you score highly enough, then you get an award, and you can put that in your section. Besides that, you can win awards from a number of different sources, like school club tournaments, so speech and debate tournaments, or FBLA competitions, etc. Sports competitions, so if you're a member of a sports team and you win a championship, that's a really good one to put on. Certificates, so if you go to a summer camp and they give you a certificate of completion, that's also good to show that you participated. Hackathons, if you're really interested in computer science, I recommend going to one. They're really fun. You spend like an entire day with your team members just coding for something. And if you win, then it's really nice. So the Common Application, which is the application that most private colleges use for their college apps, they have 5 spots only for your honors and awards. So make sure you pick carefully and show the ones that you really want people to see, like the college applications boards. But of course, not just because there's only 5 on the Common App doesn't mean you can have more than 5, because more is better. So you might think, I just gave you a bunch of lists, a bunch of lists of things that you can do, right? But as I said in the beginning, just because you're doing all of these things does not mean that you're going to get admitted into a good college. Just because I'm going to, let's say Myanmar, to volunteer, does not mean that I'm going to get into a good college. I need to be actively committed and show that I'm passionate about these things to the college that I'm applying to. And what's really important about this is individuality. You need to stand out above the rest of the crowd. When you're applying to a college, you need to show the college why do they want to accept you. It's not why do you want to go there. They already know that because you're applying. But the question is, why are they losing out if they don't accept you into their college? And you need to show that through your application, which is why individuality and your own little highlights of your application are really important as well. So do the things I said earlier, and also make sure that you're maintaining your individuality and exceptionalness. And that's it. So do you have any questions?
Yeah. So for the honor award, right? You say hackathons. What if, like, you know, the students, like, it's mainly on hackathon, different competition, have, you know, all different awards. Do you put all of them in, or you can should put something in for different categories?
Depending. So if you're doing Common App and you only have 5 spots, I recommend like 1 or 2 of them. If they're really important to the applicant, then put those in. But otherwise, when you're applying to colleges, you want a diversity in your awards and honors. Anything else? Yeah.
So what's your plan beyond college?
Ooh. So I'm planning to work in the computer science industry for a while, and then after I hit the age where people start getting fired, I'm thinking about becoming a teacher or a professor or like a tutor or a researcher. I saw one more hand around here. Yeah.
Did you take a computer science AP in the junior
I
year
did.
or senior year?
Oh, I took it sophomore year at my high school.
Year,
Yeah.
Oh, did you take the one with the Java or one with the Python?
I don't think there is a computer science class. AP with Python. It's only Java.
There's a new computer science AP called the principal with the Python.
Oh, the principles one. My high school didn't have principles, so I took computer science A. Yeah.
And do you think non-CS majors should take computer science classes? And if so, how many do you suggest that they should take, even if they're not on track for CS?
In high school, right?
In high school, yeah.
I would say taking Java, it's like the intro programming class, is good for anyone. There's no downside to taking it. You learn how to think with logic and how a computer works. Because we use computers every day. Like, you're not gonna, when you're entered the workforce, like, no matter what you're doing, you're gonna be using a computer for something. And so understanding how they work is really helpful. But beyond one, I wouldn't say there's a necessary, I wouldn't say there's a need to take more than one unless the student's really interested. So 1 is good, 0 is fine, more than 1 is optional.
Or sorry, we're running out of time. If you have any more questions for Nathaniel, maybe you could stay a little bit after the seminar. Okay. Thank you, Nathaniel.